In today's video, we will be discussing the Higher Modern Studies exam and looking at how to answer 12 marks essay questions. In the final Modern Studies exam there will be two papers. Paper 1 focuses on essay questions and Paper 2 looks at source questions. In today's video, we are looking at how to answer 12 mark questions from Paper 1. Let's look at some background information about these topics. There will be two types of essay questions in the final exam, and today we are discussing the 12 marks questions. A 12 mark essay question can appear in any section of Paper 1, and there will be one in the final exam. 12 mark essay questions might start with evaluate or analyse. Let's discuss how you get marks for this. As has been noted, and as is obvious, 12 mark essay questions are worth 12 marks. But this is how to actually get those 12 marks. Up to 8 marks are available for each relevant piece of knowledge that you provide which is relevant to answering the question. You can gain a further 4 marks every time you analyse and evaluate the information that you've provided. Let's discuss a possible approach to answering this to try and ensure you get the maximum marks possible. You should start your essay with an introduction. Simply state the issue that you will discuss, which is the one named in the question, and then identify the specific factors you're going to consider as part of your answer. After this, you should aim to write 2 per paragraphs. Each per paragraph should cover a factor which is relevant to the question, looking at arguments for and against its importance, before you go on to give an overall opinion. Finally, you should write a conclusion, where you summarise the main points of your essay and also give an overall summary. This is how you go about writing per paragraphs. Per stands for the following: point, explain, example, rebuttal, explain, example, and link back. Let's look at in more detail what this actually means. The point is simply where you state the first issue that you are going to discuss, which is relevant to answering the question. You should go on to explain the point and say why this is relevant to the question. You should also try and provide a statistic or example which supports this particular argument. The rebuttal is the opposite. You should then state an issue which directly contradicts the point that you began by discussing. You should then explain what this issue is and say why it's relevant to the question. And again, you should try and provide a statistic or example to support this. Finally, in your link back, you should give an overall summary, where you summarise and evaluate this topic in terms of the question, making a decision about which of these arguments was most relevant. It's important that you write 2 of these per paragraphs if you are going to get the maximum marks you can. Let's look at an example question to try and understand more about what exactly is required. The first thing we have to do is discuss our introduction. Remember, in our introduction, we have to begin by stating the question that we are going to look at, and we also have to discuss the factors which will be included as part of our answer. Here you can see an example of an introduction. We begin at first by identifying the topic which we are discussing, which was the one named in the question. We then identify the factor that we will be looking at as part of our answer, and we go on to identify other possible factors that we will consider as part of answering our question. Then we go on to look at our point, the first of our per paragraphs. We give a point which is relevant to the question. We then go on to explain it. We begin by identifying what this actually means, and we explain why this specifically links to the question. We then go on and give an example. We try and support the point that we've made using a statistic or some other relevant point. Having done this, we now have to do the opposite. This is when we have to go about rebutting the point that's just been made, when we suggest that there's perhaps an alternative answer. We then go on and give information, firstly explaining what the relevance of this is, what it means, and then linking this back to the question. Again, after this, we want to try and support this with an example, and this example tries to prove the point that we are looking at. For our link back, we try and make an overall decision. We decide which of the factors we've just discussed was the most relevant to answering our question. We should try and repeat this process once more, giving a second PREO paragraph. Having done all this, we now need to reach an overall conclusion. We should make a decision about if there's a single factor or a combination which is relevant in answering the question. And then we should go on to provide evidence that supports this point of view. Remember, start with an introduction where you state the issue you'll discuss, which is the one named in the question, and the factors you're going to look at as part of this. Then go on to write 2 PREO paragraphs where you analyse arguments for and against a particular view. And finally reach an overall conclusion where you make a decision and support your decision with evidence. Higher Modern Studies exam, how to answer 12-mark essay questions. It's really that simple.